There has always been one clear exception to the general truism that wealthier countries are more democratic: the oil-rich states of the Middle East. Countries that are particularly rich in natural resources, whether it is oil or diamonds or something else, often have lower levels of political freedom than other countries. This is what is called the oil curse, and this video will discuss some of the reasons why this might be the case. To summarize, oil-rich countries are often able to buy off their citizens and opponents. By providing cash transfers and good social services, they are able to remain stable autocracies where other countries would transition to democracy. First off, a point of clarification. When we are talking about resource-rich states, we're not talking about countries with the biggest crude oil reserves or the biggest refiners or producers of petroleum products. We're talking about countries whose economies are dominated by oil production in one form or another. Oil production per se is not the problem. The United States is, after all, currently the biggest producer and consumer of oil in the world. The problem is countries that rely on income from natural resources to support their economies. These types of countries are often called rentier states because they rely on rents, or income, from natural resource extraction and production. One of the first scholars to popularize the idea of the resource curse was Michael Ross, who found that for the years 1971 to 1997, natural resource wealth was strongly negatively correlated with democracy. Specifically, increasing oil exports by around $10 billion a year is associated with a half-point decline in a country's democracy score, on the polity scale, which is a 10-point democracy scale. Ross argues there are three reasons why this might be the case, and finds limited support for all three: that governments use money from natural resource exports to keep taxes low and social spending high, reducing the demand for democracy; that they are able to spend more money on their security services, which allows them to repress demonstrations more effectively; and that oil-based growth doesn't actually lead to the growth of a middle class that would actually demand democracy, as per modernization theory. Many people have challenged these findings, however. Indeed, using different measures of revenue from natural resources and different measures of democracy can eliminate the statistical relationship that Ross demonstrated. Others have found that oil revenue simply supports the stability of an existing regime. Authoritarian countries remain authoritarian, and democratic countries remain democratic. Thad Dunning, in his book Crude Democracy, also demonstrates how natural resource rents can in fact support democratization, because it reduces pressure to raise taxes on the rich. Examining cases in Latin America rather than the Middle East, and building off theories of inequality and democracy, this is the idea that the rich don't want democracy because it leads to increases in taxes. He argues that since revenue from oil and gas can be directed to social services for the poor, that reduces elite opposition to liberalization. While the correlation between different types of natural resource wealth and dictatorship remains solid, with the oil-rich states of the Middle East remaining autocratic, current research focuses on other factors, alternate explanations or confounding variables, that make these countries unique. For example, their small population size. That might make this rentier effect a possible source of autocratic stability in these countries and not others. In addition, recent research has expanded attention to the relationship between natural resources and civil war. If greed-based theories of civil war are correct, then countries with natural resources may be more autocratic because they are more prone to civil war, not because of the resources themselves. Finally, current research focuses on a different mechanism for how oil wealth supports dictatorship: corruption. Supporting the development of extractive as opposed to inclusive institutions may be the way that natural resources foster autocracy. There's support for each of these mechanisms. There are strong and robust correlations between petroleum wealth and the durability of dictatorship, grand corruption, and civil war in low-income countries. Understanding further how this process works, though, remains one of our challenges ahead.